A very good morning to all of you. I'm Kavita Sinha, Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering AI in IIMT College of Engineering, Greater Noida. So today my topic is cryptography. So these are the outlines which I will cover. That is the introduction, what is cryptography, purpose of cryptography, that why we need cryptography, and the types of cryptography, and the term we'll define the term encryption and decryption, the term which we frequently use in our whole session, and types of cryptographic algorithms and attacks of cryptography means what kind of attacks happen in cryptography. So we'll cover all these topics. So before starting cryptography, let us know that the internet or the global internet is the internationally connected network of computer networks with addresses by IANA, that is Internet Address and Naming Authority. So we all know that Internet is a network of networks. So basically, uh, Internet is a public domain. Internet is used by everyone from a layman to a businessman. Everyone is using internet. Internet is a vulnerable source. uh, you can see that internet is a vulnerable source because a legitimate user is also using internet, or a unauthorized person means the hacker is also using internet. So there are many aspects to security and many applications ranging from secure commerce and payment to private communications and protecting passwords means we are doing online shopping and online payment uh, to protect our data and our password from unauthorized access. To secure our communication we need cryptography. So what is cryptography? So cryptography derived its name from a Greek word called crypto, which means hidden secrets. Cryptography is the practice and the study of hiding information. It is the art or science of converting a plain intelligible data into an unintelligible data, and again retransforming that message into its original form. Means basically cryptography is a process where a plain text is converted into ciphertext. Means a plain text is encrypted to ciphertext. Ciphertext is a text which is not in a readable format. The a plain text is encrypted to a non-readable format, and then again when it is received by the receiver, so it is decrypted to plain text. Means the ciphertext is converted to plain text. So this process is called cryptography. So it provides confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So these are the security goals of cryptography. These are the security goals of cybersecurity and cryptography. So it is also known as CIA triads. Purpose of cryptography. So these are the CIA triad which I mentioned, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So in confidentiality, it ensuring that no one can read the message except the intended receiver. Means the principle of confidentiality is that only the authorized person has the access to read the information, to read the sensitive data. Other than the authorized person, no one can read that data. And in integrity, it ensuring the receiver that the received message has not been altered in any way from the original. And the principle of integrity is that only the authorized person has the access to alter the data, that is to modify the data, to to add or to delete some data uh, in integrity. So basically in integrity only the authorized person has the access for altering. And in availability, the data should be available whenever it is required. And in non-repudiation, a mechanism to prove that the sender really sent the message. And one more purpose of cryptography is authentication, the process of providing one's identity. The primary form of the host to host authentication on the internet today are name based or address based, both of which are notoriously weak. So these are the purpose of cryptography. Next is encryption and decryption. We used these terms encryption and decryption. So what is encryption? The process of converting plain text into an unintelligible format, ciphertext, is called encryption. Means a plain text is converted to non non-readable format is called encryption. And decryption is the process of converting ciphertext into plain text. Means the data which is not read in a readable format is again converted into a readable format, into a plain text, is called decryption. There are two types of cryptography. One is symmetric key cryptography and another one is asymmetric key cryptography. So first is symmetric key cryptography. What is symmetric key cryptography? Symmetric encryption is a type of encryption that uses the same key to encrypt and decrypt data. Both the sender and the recipient have identical copies of the key, which they keep secret and don't share with anyone. So, in this diagram, you can see that a sender is sending a message to a receiver, and should know the key both should know the key, and a single key is used, a same key is used for encryption and decryption, and they will not share the key with anyone, so they keep it secret. And the advantage and disadvantage of symmetric key is that the advantage is it is simpler and faster. The single key, a same key is used, so it is simpler and faster, and it is less secured. Asymmetric key cryptography. Asymmetric cryptography, also known as public key cryptography, it is a process that uses a pair of related keys, one public key and one private key, to encrypt and decrypt a message and protect it from unauthorized access or use. In this diagram, you can see that uh, when a sender is sending a message to a recipient, a plain text is converted into ciphertext. So, when we are doing encryption, we are using public key. And again, when a ciphertext is converted to plain text, means when we are decrypting the message, we are using private key. So here two keys are used. One is public key and another one is private key. For encryption, we use public key, and for decryption, we use private key. And the advantage is it is more secured and it is authenticated, and the disadvantage is it is relatively complex. It is complex because we are using two different keys, so it is quite complex. Next is attacks of cryptography. A useful means of classifying security attacks are classified into two types: passive attack and active attack. A passive attack attempts to learn or make use of information from the system but does not affect system resources, whereas Active attack attempts to alter system resources or affect their operations. Means what kind of attacks happen in cryptography. So there are two types of attack. One is passive attack and another one is active attack. In passive attack, there is interception. It is further divided into two parts, that is release of message content and traffic analysis. And in active attack there is three things: interruption, modification, fabrication happen. So in active attack it is divided into four parts, that is masquerade, replay, modification and denial of services. So let us understand one by one. So first is passive attack. Passive attack are in the nature of eavesdropping, spy on, or monitoring of transmissions. The goal of the opponent is to obtain information that is being transmitted. Two types of passive attacks are the release of message content and traffic analysis. So the name passive attack means that in this attack, the attacker only observe the data. He will not do any kind of alteration. He will just observe the data and he will read the data which is which is sent by the sender to receiver. So the first part is release of message. In release of message, contents is easily understood: a telephone conversation, an electronic mail message, and a transferred file may contain sensitive or confidential information. We would like to prevent an opponent from learning the contents of these transmission. So here in this diagram you can see that Bob, Alice and Darth. Here the Bob is a sender, Alice is a receiver, and the Darth, he is a attacker. So basically when Bob is sending a message to Alice through internet, so internet, um, Darth is also present here. So Darth read content of message from Bob to Alice, means whatever the message is sending by Bob, Darth read all the content and the message is sent to Alice. So here there is a violation of confidentiality, means he doesn't change, the attacker doesn't change the content, but he read the message, he read the confidential data. So there is a violation of confidentiality. So the next one, he will only observe the data, he will not do any kind of changes. The next one is traffic analysis. Now the Bob understand that someone is there, someone third party is there who is reading their confidential sensitive message. So now Bob is sending a message through encryption, means he encrypted the data and now after encrypting he's sending the data to Alice. So now Darth observe the pattern of message from Bob to Alice, and he will now Bob will know the pattern of the Bob. Now Bob said when Bob sent the message to Alice, uh, so Darth know that from which route Bob is sending message to Alice and from which path, and he will also observe the bandwidth and also the frequency and the length of message. Means basically the attacker observe the pattern of the message from Bob to Alice. So, suppose we had a way of making the content of messages or other information traffic, so that opponents, even if they captured the message, could not extract the information from the message. The common technique for masking content is encryption. If we had encryption protection in place, an opponent could determine the location and identify of communicating host and could observe the frequency and length of messages being exchanged. This information might be useful in guessing the nature of the communication that was taking place. Next is active attack. In active attack involves some modification of the data stream or the creation of a false stream and can be subdivided into four categories, that is masquerade, replay, modification of messages, and denial of services. From the name active attack, it is clearly we can understand that the attacker is active here. The attacker is active here. He will do the changes on the data which we are sending to the receiver. So first is masquerade. The release of message content is easily understood. A telephone conversation, an electronic mail message, and a transferred file may contain sensitive or confidential information. We would like to prevent an opponent from the learning the content of this transmission. So in this diagram you can see that Bob is sending a message to Alice, but here you can see that Bob is not sending a message to Alice. Here Darth is sending a message to Alice. So here the attacker Darth knows the login credential of Bob. He knows the login ID and password of Bob. So he is sending a message to Alice. Message from Darth that appears to be from Bob, but the message is sending from Darth. So he's sending a message to Alice, and now Alice is thinking that the message she is received from Bob. So here there is a violation of confidentiality. Next one is replay. In um, replay involve the passive capture of a data unit and its subsequent retransmission to produce an authorized effect. In this diagram you can see that Bob is sending message to Alice through internet, and Darth is also there. So he captured message from Bob to Alice, later replay message to Alice. So whatever message Bob is sending to Alice, in between the Darth hold the message, and uh, he further do some changes on that message. He is altering the message and send it to Alice. So there is a violation of integrity. And the third one is denial of services. It prevents or inhibits the normal use of management of communication facilities. These attacks may have a specific target. For example, an entity may suppress all messages directed to a particular destination. Another form of services denial is the disruption of an entire network, either by disabling the network or by overloading it with messages so as to degrade performance. Okay, so here in this diagram you can see that uh, that disrupt services provided by the server. So basically a legitimate user, a authorized user is requesting any kind of query through server in server. So here uh, intentionally Darth is sending a unlimited, means he is sending a unlimited in a infinite request to server, so that the server become busy and he is not able to respond to the legitimate user. So this is called denial of services. Thank you.